But my name's Nev anyway. It's great to meet you, dude.
Nice to meet you, man. I'm Mike.
Yeah, awesome, man. Of course, it's been what I think it's what 11 years since we saw GLORYHAMMER down in Australia, and the band is finally coming back in support of your latest album, Return to the Kingdom of Fife, which is epic as fuck. Now, this is your first time here with the band,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah, I think I joined maybe 2 years after the first Australian tour.
That's right. Is it your first time in Australia completely?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
That must be a trip, dude. What do you expect? Are you expecting like Mad Max, with like the tire, fucking shoulder pads?
I've got some idea. My best friend in London is from Brisbane, and I know a load of guys from Brisbane as well. So I think Brisbane will probably be pretty Mad Max, but then the rest of it might be quite nice. I don't know.
No, I don't know. No, I think you're thinking more the outer suburbs of Brisbane, because
Yeah.
down on the Gold Coast, which is about an hour from Brisbane, where I am now. But when you start to those areas, that's when you got to really.
It's like old lorries overturned with burned out tires and stuff.
Yeah. Logan, they call it. But anyway, man. But of course, do you find that when you're touring around these days, talking about armor and stuff, do people really embrace it? They show up to shows, fully armored up.
Yeah, there's actually one guy. I think it's an Australian guy, and he comes to our shows in Europe. He's dressed up, and he brings all these. He has hundreds of these like inflatable unicorns, and we always know when he's at a show because suddenly the entire crowd will just be full of these weird little like tubes, like unicorn balloons. And we hadn't seen him for ages. Obviously, there was the pandemic and all that. And then we played a show in Finland last summer, and halfway through the show, all these unicorns appeared, and we were like, "Oh, that guy's probably here." And then someone ran into us later on. They were like, "Oh yeah, this guy from Australia is just handing them out," and I was like, "Yeah, I knew it," like.
It must be like it's your sign. It's your, you're gonna have a good day when the Australian shows up with unicorns, right?
Basically.
Yeah. But I've never seen GLORYHAMMER. This is going to be my first time seeing you guys.
Yeah, well, I guess it was a long time ago, and I think some of those shows were in pretty, from what the other guys have told me, they were pretty small, and some of the places were quite obscure as well. It's not the regular places you do a show.
I think this one's going to be pretty good, dude. Like the buzz about it is.
That's cool. That's nice to hear.
Yeah, man, it's going to be unreal. But of course, since it has been a little while since we've seen the band, how's that set list shaping up? Is it going to be?
It'll be completely different by now. I'd imagine I think there was just one album when the previous tour happened.
Yeah, that's right.
And by our standards, the album now only has about 2 good songs on it. So we'll still play those 2 songs, but then the rest of it will be, stuff that obviously has never been played before in Australia because there's 3 albums worth of bangers to choose from.
That's right, and the story just it's so deep, man. Like the lore and everything. When you play those songs live, do you try and do it in a way where it sort of tells part of the story, like a recap in a way, or is it sort of a little bit more of
not really. We more try. We leave that for the records, and we try and organise the set list in the way that we think sort of is the most exciting for the crowd, really, and for us to play as well.
Of course, and man, this year we were talking. This year you released Return to the Kingdom of Fife, which I believe takes things right back to the first album.
That's right.
The Kingdom of Fife. How does that story cycle back around to the 10 years later? Like, I know there's some cloning going on. There's a hot, like, was this whole other dimension? It's pretty mind blowing what you guys put into it.
Yeah, pretty much at the end of the third record, there's a big fight between the antagonist and protagonist, Angus and Zargafrax, and at the very end of the record, we left this kind of like coded message for anyone who could be bothered to figure out. It was like a Morse code, which basically gave like a hint towards what was going to happen on the next album. So there was kind of a dead man's failsafe, I guess. When Zargafrax dies, he sends this trans-dimensional message back to the events of the first album, or just after the first album, waking up this clone, which then proceeds to run amok and destroy everything, and that kind of that's the very beginning of the new album, and the rest of the record is kind of set a few decades after that, where Angus's son has kind of returned to Fife to exact his revenge and take back his kingdom and all this shit.
I love it. So good. But what's with the robot? With the robot prince of Octool?
Octool. Oh, we just, I don't know. We kept like writing lyrics about robots, and just because we thought it was funny, and then when we were writing the final song, I mean, Chris had that chorus actually knocking around for a while, but it wasn't attached to anything. It didn't mean anything, and usually when we start off writing those big long songs, they kind of start life as like a riff dump, because we've got like tons of stuff left over that for some reason or other didn't make it into a song. We were like, right, this is still cool. We could save it for another album. Obviously, it'd probably make more sense. Or we could just, chuck it all in this 30-minute long epic and see what happens. And then he threw the Robot Prince chorus in, and then I wrote like a pre-chorus or something, and we kind of wrote some stuff around it, and then we kind of backtracked through the rest of the album and changed the lyrics about other robots a little bit, so they would kind of build up to it. So it's kind of, we kind of like this idea of just having, like, basically the whole album is hinting at this like epic character who shows up, and he's like praised as this like all-powerful hero, and then I think by about 3 minutes later he's dead. Like he doesn't last very long. But we just want to like kind of have this like side story building through the album with like little hints. And then, when people finally get that, like, oh my God, it's happening. And then it's like, no, he's dead, like.
It's pretty funny.
He's totally useless.
And of course, your character, which is the big bad, Zargorath. I can't even talk English tonight. I don't even think that is English. Zargorath. How do you say it?
Zargothrax.
That's the one.
That's the one.
I'm sorry, I'll get used to it. Evil wizard. Which in the lore of the band. Before joining though, how much research did the dudes make you do? Did you sit down with the over a beer and they sort of pulled down the thing and said, all right, this is what we're doing and this is who you're going to be? Or did they just give you a book and just went, read all of this just to bring you up to speed? How did that sort of work jumping on?
I kind of knew already, because I think on the first ever GLORYHAMMER tour, I was the guitar tech. So I'd watched the show a little bit, and I was always chatting with Chris online. He's like sending me songs and stuff. So I had a vague idea. And when I joined, I was like, oh, I'll just do my best. And then I kind of watched a few videos of the performances back, and I was like, it could be better actually. So I started trying to actively think about developing, because I'd played before in like black metal bands and stuff like that, and I was like, well, it's basically the same thing, So I just tried to bring a bit of my own history into like kind of what Chris had already established and just develop it from there, really.
It's really cool, man. It's cool. With the special edition, you had a card game. Did you have something to do that with that as well? Like,
no, that was all Chris. I think we just decided, we were chatting about like potential things. Some of the guys like Sozos, our vocalist, Jim and Chris, they're really into like Magic the Gathering.
Yes.
And so they would, and quite a lot of the fans are as well. Like whenever we've posted anything about that, like people go off about it. So we were just like, well, maybe it'd be cool to design a card game, So Chris just sat at home and knocked it up in a week or so, I think.
That's because there's a lot goes into those card games. That's like Magic and stuff. I don't know where you sit with the whole nerdy thing, man. You can kind of tell where I'm at.
I think my thing at the moment is like Dark Souls and Elden Ring and these kind of possibly nerdy games, But I've been getting really into Dark Souls recently.
Yeah, sick. Have you always been like that? Like, what sort of came first for you when you were growing up? Was it metal, or was it both, or was it the video games, or something nerdy? What was it that sort of?
I think I was into music first, by a little bit, and then I think I had like a Sega Mega Drive when I was a kid, or I can't remember what they call them elsewhere. Is it Sega Saturn?
Yeah. Oh, we had a Sega Mega Drive. Mega Drive. It was Mega Drive down
Oh,
here.
Sega Genesis. Genesis, I think they call it Mega, but it's Mega Drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played that a bit, and then yeah, I played a PlayStation for a while, but then I started getting into music, and I realized like I can't do both for what. Like if I want to get good at guitar, I can't sit around playing games all day, you know, or play or whatever. So I just stopped for quite a long time, and then once I'd kind of gotten my music ability to where I wanted it to be, then I sort of got back into gaming as a way to kind of relax, you know, or stress myself out, depending on what I'm playing.
Yes, I know, man. Man, I tell you what, it swings back around, that's for sure. You know, I did the same thing. I just got deep into music, and then later in life, my collection was like a couple of things, and then just grew into the nerd kingdom. You know, like that.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's a cool man cave you got going on there.
Yeah, I love it, man. Hey, it reminds me of the good times, and then
Yeah,
and all the money I no longer have. But talking about action figures and stuff, have you guys spoken about maybe going down that road and expanding into other media like movies and action figures and stuff like that?
yeah. We did a figure release a while ago, actually, maybe for the last album, and we always get offers. We get like emails every day from people saying like, "Oh, we want to write a comic book. We want to write a series for Netflix or whatever," and we always kind of we try and do our research because we don't want to sign up for something if it's not going to like match the standards that we have for
that's it.
band, So occasionally we'll look at something and be like, okay, let's do this. But like, I don't know. It's hard to. It kind of feels like the kind of people who randomly send an email to a band account saying, "I want to write a comic book for you," maybe aren't the right people to be doing that. So it's tough.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying there, but I mean, I guess it depends on the company. You want some of the reputable ones like Necker and stuff coming with the.
Yeah.
It's another one that showed up recently called, but they're doing a whole Gore series, and man, I just want to give them all my money. It's like you get all the characters and then you build it your own odorous.
I mean, we also have, there's a couple of fans who like just make their own sort of comic strips of the band for fun. And they're so good. It's kind of like, how are we going to top this and try and sell it when someone else is already doing it so well for free, like.
You could always pay. Give them a call.
Unless we just hired them.
Hey man, I'm sure that they'd love to be involved. If anyone knows the lore of the band, it's probably those guys.
Yeah, probably know it more than we do.
Yeah, kind of. Man, fandom gets pretty scary like that sometimes. That's for sure. But you've done so many amazing tours and things like that. Played Varkin and thousands and thousands of people. Has there been one moment that has been the most significant for you?
I think recently we went to the USA with Ailstorm in May this year, and we've been there twice before, but it was always it was always like more like a holiday than a tour, really. You're going back from like in Germany, we're playing like 3,000 cap venues to playing in like a bar to like 200 people or whatever, and it's kind of like, okay, this is never going to be like a profitable thing, but we're going to keep doing it because it's a lot of fun. Like American crowds are fun, and traveling around America is fun. But then this time we went over there, and suddenly the shows became like European shows, but I mean, people are even more crazy in the USA, and it was just like, shit, we can actually do this as like a viable, we can travel to like a completely different continent and travel around for like a month, and people are going to come to the shows and have a good time, And I think for me that was like this kind of, I don't know, it was quite a big moment, I think, And there's been times like that before, obviously, when you're younger and you realize you can go to Europe and you don't have to play like a pub in the UK anymore and stuff like that. But I think it has a bit more significance when you're in your kind of mid-30s, and you're like, oh wow, like these cool things are still happening,
Especially when I don't know, every musician has those moments where it's like, oh, I'm just going to be playing the same fucking bar for the rest of my life. And then when you get those moments, you're right, man. It is significant. Like my band, we went down, played Frankie's Pizza, if you've ever heard of that, down here just before they closed. That was like a dream of mine to play that place. And it was everything that I'd hoped it to be. Just getting, get on a plane with the boys, go down, have some beers, have some laughs, and then you go, oh man, it gives you that to go keep going,
Yeah. I get that sometimes. I play a venue where it's like, oh, actually, I've always wanted to come here. Like you've heard, I've watched like an old show that one of my bands, like favorite bands, did there, and I'm like, oh, I want to go there, and then you go there, and it's like, oh, this is cool.
And there's plenty more. There's plenty more. And hey, you actually toured with one of my favorite bands, Nekrogoblikon. How was
Oh
it?
yeah.
How was it hitting the road with those guys and
Oh,
Goblin?
they're funny. They're funny as hell, man. I've known Eric, the drummer, for quite a long time. But, they're just super funny guys. It's just like
And
being on tour of a rolling comedy show.
Nicky's a good dude. I've
Yeah,
had
he's a
him on
nice
the
guy.
show before. I don't know if he's traveling with him at the moment, but
So I think they've got the Goblins doing some vocals now, I think.
yeah. Or John, man, that would have been wild. That would have been so good. We got to get them down here somehow as
I'm
well.
sure they'll
Hey,
be. I think they just did a headline UK tour, so I think they're broadening their horizons a little bit.
man, you tour more with those dudes, wouldn't you?
I'd love
If it
to,
came
yeah.
up, yeah, that'd be amazing. One day I'll see it. One day I'll see
Fingers-
it. But of course, apart from touring down here, what's the future looking like for you, man? What do you got planned for 2024 and beyond?
We've got this big European tour coming up with Beast in Black, like co-headline tour in January, which is going to be amazing. They're
Massive.
super cool guy,
Yeah.
super cool guy. Well, we toured with them a while back, and everyone gets along super well. So that's going to be a blast, I think. And we have Brothers of Metal, the Swedish band, as the opening. We toured with them last year, and there's like 15 of them, like all these 9 or 10 Vikings.
Really?
They're all
I
awesome.
haven't
They're
heard
all
of
awesome. Yeah, it's like Slipknot but with Vikings, but they're super cool. So I think everyone on the tour is going to get along, and it should just be a lot of fun.
Oh man, it's going to be unreal. But in the meantime, man, we're going to see you down here in Australia, and we'll have all the links down here in the show notes and on the website. Brother, thanks for hanging out on the show, and I'll catch you for a beer in Brisbane.
Of course, man. See you there.
Thanks,
Take
man.
care, man.
Take
See you
care,
then.
bro.
Bye.
See ya.